Most sommeliers at our fancier restaurants will recommend this, a dry red wine to go with your beef. But what if you're in the mood for, say, a glass of guava wine? Well, turns out there is such a thing. And as far as we know, it only comes from one place in the Heartland, Florida. On a recent visit to South Florida, Pat McConaughey met with the builders of one winery that's never seen a grape.
Winemaking is a $26 billion business in this country. Nearly every state produces it. Pineapple wine in Hawaii, dry honey wine in North Dakota. But Peter Schnebley of Florida wants you to try something else.
The next one we're going to have is our guava.
That's right, guava, lychee, and mango. Tropical fruit wines. Peter Schnebley and his wife Denise have been growing and processing fruit under the Fresh King label in southern Florida for 25 years. He was looking for a way to use the overripe produce that he couldn't sell.
A friend from New York, who's a winemaker in New York, suggested, why don't we try making wine out of our exotic tropical fruits? And of course I said I didn't know we could do that, and he said, well, you can make wine out of rice.
In 2005, Schnebley began bottling the only tropical wines produced in the U.S. that are made with absolutely no grapes. His venture is also said to be the southernmost winemaking operation in the country. But he had to learn some things the hard way, that not all fruits can be pressed the same way.
There was a time I was pressing guava, and you press it, no juice was coming out. And a dog was around, and I was by the garage in the backyard, and all of a sudden it just blew up. And half of the dog was covered with guava, half of me was covered with guava, and half the garage was covered with guava.
Schnebley also went where no other winemaker has gone.
The scariest part of the whole thing was going out and buying $20,000 worth of presses with a no money back guarantee and not knowing whether those presses were going to press our fruit correctly.
Schnebley said they worked better than he thought, so he was finally off and running, even attracting other tropical fruit growers to sell him their surplus. Charlie Laub has a 10-acre farm where he primarily produces carambolas. They're also called star fruit because when you cut into them, they have a star shape.
Leave it on and let it get ripe. It's got a relatively sweet but a little tangy taste to it, a little bit like a Granny Smith apple type taste.
The carambola is so fragile that it's carefully harvested by hand. Still, about 25 to 30% of the fruit won't make it to market because it isn't perfect.
This is basically a bird peck, this particular one is. But any cracks or anything like that, this is non-packable. Even if you got like a little hole like that, it's not packable. This is fruit that'll go to the winery.
Where 5,000 cases were produced the first year. Schnebley said he's had to dispel the notion that just because his wines are made from tropical fruits, they're very sweet.
We can make a wine dry. It's whatever the winemaker decides he or she wants to make. So that's the most common misconception about winemaking. You can make a sweet grape wine, you can make a sweet mango wine, but you don't have to. You can make them both dry if you want.
Not content to have the only small winery in this part of Florida, Schnebley has big plans. He wants to turn this into a tourist destination, and construction for that is well underway.
The new venture is a 3,000 square foot tasting room and retail center. The larger facility will allow more visitors to enjoy this new innovative wine.
Very unique and very different, but I will say very, very good.
Well, actually, I am not a wine connoisseur, so it was a real refreshing taste.
The elaborate tasting room will join the waterfalls and ponds that already adorn the property.
We really wanted to have that really tropical feel so people can come on out, buy a bottle or two of wine, sit underneath a tiki hut,
and drink in some fresh flavors and fine, breathtaking backdrops from South Florida.